What if the real reason you're not losing belly fat has nothing to do with your diet or your fasting routine? Think about it. You've been doing everything right. You skip meals, you stick to your fasting window, you avoid junk food, maybe you even push yourself through workouts when you don't feel like it, and yet that stubborn belly fat refuses to move. It's frustrating, confusing, almost feels unfair, because according to everything you've been told, this should be working. But what if there's a hidden switch inside your body, silently blocking your results? A single hormone that decides whether your body burns fat or stores it, especially around your belly. And here's the scary part. This hormone spikes when you're stressed, overwhelmed, or even just not sleeping properly. When it goes up, your body shifts into survival mode. Imagine trying to burn fat while your body is constantly being told you're in danger. It won't burn fat. It will protect it. Even worse, it will store more of it right where you don't want it. So while you think fasting is helping, your body might actually be fighting against you. But here's where things get interesting. When this one hormone finally drops, something almost unbelievable starts to happen. Your body doesn't just begin to burn fat. It starts targeting the most stubborn fat first. And that's the part most people never experience, because no one ever told them about this. And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly why your fasting hasn't been working and how fixing this one hormone changes everything. I'm Dr. Leon Hartwell, and for over a decade, I've been deeply focused on metabolic health, endocrinology, and the science of how the human body actually burns or stores fat. My work sits at the intersection of hormones, fasting, and cellular metabolism, and I've spent years studying why some people see rapid results, while others feel completely stuck. In my clinical practice, I've worked with hundreds of patients struggling with weight loss resistance. These weren't people lacking discipline. In fact, many of them were doing everything by the book: intermittent fasting, clean eating, regular exercise, yet their progress didn't reflect their effort. That disconnect is what pushed me to look deeper. I kept seeing the same pattern over and over again. Patients would come in frustrated, confused, even blaming themselves. But when I looked beyond calories and routines, I started noticing something far more important. Their hormones were out of sync. More specifically, the patients with the highest stress levels, the ones juggling work, poor sleep, constant pressure, were also the ones struggling the most with stubborn belly fat. Even when they were fasting perfectly, their bodies simply refused to let go of that fat. That's when I began focusing more intensely on hormone balance, especially the role of stress hormones and how they interact with insulin and fat metabolism. Because here's the truth most people never hear. Your body doesn't care about your effort. It responds to signals, and if those signals are telling your body that you're under stress, under threat, or in survival mode, it will prioritize protection over fat loss every single time. My approach has always been rooted in research, but also in real-world clinical experience. I don't just look at symptoms, I look at root causes. I want to understand why your body is holding on to fat in the first place. I'm not here to give you another diet or another set of rules to follow. I'm here to help you understand what's actually happening inside your body so you can finally work with it instead of against it. Because once you understand this one mechanism, everything about fasting and fat loss starts to make sense. And more importantly, it becomes a lot easier. This isn't about willpower, it's about biology. In this video, I'm going to break down something most people completely overlook. And once you see it, you'll never look at fasting or fat loss the same way again. We're going to go deep, but in a way that actually makes sense for you. First, you'll understand what's really happening inside your body when cortisol stays elevated for too long. Not just in theory, but how it directly changes your metabolism, your hunger signals, and where your body chooses to store fat. Then we'll uncover why fasting sometimes fails, especially when it comes to stubborn belly fat. Because fasting on its own isn't broken, but in the wrong hormonal environment, it doesn't work the way you expect it to. From there, I'll show you the hidden connection between stress, blood sugar, and fat storage. This is the part that most people miss entirely. The way your body reacts to internal stress signals can override even the most disciplined routines. We'll also look at what science and clinical research reveal about cortisol and metabolism. Not surface level advice, but what actually happens at a hormonal and cellular level when your body is under constant stress. Then comes the part you've probably been waiting for. I'll walk you through an exact step-by-step strategy to lower cortisol naturally, without extreme measures, supplements overload, or unrealistic routines. You'll also learn how to combine fasting with recovery in a way that actually accelerates fat burning instead of blocking it. Because fasting isn't just about when you eat, it's about the state your body is in while you're doing it. And finally, I'll show you what kind of results you can realistically expect over time when your hormones start working in your favor again. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your body has been holding on to fat and how to finally switch it into fat-burning mode. This isn't about extreme dieting or pushing yourself harder, it's about working with your body instead of against it. And if you've been stuck, even though you've been doing everything right, this is where the missing pieces start to come together. Most people think belly fat is just about calories, but that's only part of the story. Because your body isn't a simple calculator, it's a hormonal system. And when that system is out of balance, especially under chronic stress, everything changes. When you're constantly stressed, whether it's work pressure, lack of sleep, emotional tension, or even overtraining, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. In small amounts, cortisol is helpful. It keeps you alert, focused, and ready to respond. But when it stays elevated for long periods, that's where the problem begins. Here's what actually happens inside your body. Stress triggers cortisol. Cortisol signals your liver to release more glucose into your bloodstream. That rise in blood sugar then triggers insulin, your fat storage hormone. And when insulin stays elevated, your body shifts out of fat-burning mode and into fat storage mode. So the chain looks like this: stress, cortisol, increased blood sugar, insulin spike, fat storage. And this isn't random fat storage. Cortisol has a very specific effect. It encourages your body to store fat around your organs, especially in the abdominal area. That's why belly fat is often the most stubborn and the hardest to lose. Now layer in what happens as you get older. Stress tends to accumulate, responsibilities increase, sleep quality declines, hormonal balance becomes more fragile. All of this makes it even easier for cortisol to stay elevated, and even harder for your body to burn fat efficiently. But instead of recognizing this, most people blame the wrong things. They blame carbs. They cut calories lower and lower. They push themselves harder in workouts. They assume it's a discipline problem, all while ignoring the one system that's actually controlling the outcome. And this is exactly where fasting can start to fail. Because if your cortisol is already high, your body doesn't see fasting as a fat-burning tool, it sees it as another form of stress. Instead of unlocking stored fat, your body tightens its grip on it. It's like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. You're putting in effort, but you're not moving forward. That's why you feel stuck. Not because your body is broken, but because it's trying to protect you. Let's simplify what cortisol actually does. Cortisol is your body's built-in survival hormone. It's designed to help you respond to stress by giving you quick, usable energy. In a true emergency, that's incredibly useful. Your body needs fuel, fast, and cortisol makes sure you have it. But the problem today is that your body can't tell the difference between real danger and modern stress. Deadlines, poor sleep, constant notifications, emotional pressure, it all triggers the same response. So what does cortisol do in that state? First, it raises your blood glucose levels. It tells your liver to release stored sugar into your bloodstream so your body has immediate energy available. Then comes the next step. As blood sugar rises, your body releases insulin to manage it. Insulin's job is to take that sugar out of the bloodstream and store it, either as glycogen or, if there's too much, as fat. Here's the critical part most people don't realize. Insulin doesn't just store energy, it also blocks fat burning. So when insulin is elevated, your body is essentially locked out of fat burning mode. That means even if you're fasting, even if you're not eating, your body still isn't accessing stored fat efficiently. And this is where cortisol creates a double problem. Not only does it raise blood sugar and insulin, but it also directs where fat gets stored. Cortisol has a strong preference for visceral fat, the fat stored deep around your organs, especially in the abdominal area. That's why belly fat becomes so persistent. It's not random, it's hormonally driven. Think of your body like a bank. When cortisol is high, it's sending a signal to save, protect, and store energy. It's preparing for uncertainty. It's not interested in spending or burning that energy, no matter how much you want it to. So the real shift happens when cortisol comes down. When cortisol levels are lower, your blood sugar becomes more stable. That means fewer insulin spikes. And when insulin stays lower, your body finally gets access to stored fat again. That's when fat burning becomes efficient. This is also why fasting can feel completely different depending on your hormonal state. When cortisol is high, fasting adds more stress and keeps your body in storage mode. But when cortisol is balanced, fasting becomes a powerful tool. It amplifies fat burning instead of blocking it. And that's the moment everything changes. When your body moves out of survival mode and finally into fat burning mode. Multiple studies have shown a direct link between cortisol and abdominal fat. When researchers look at people under chronic stress, one pattern shows up again and again. Those with consistently elevated cortisol levels tend to carry more visceral fat, especially around the midsection. This isn't just about appearance, it's a measurable biological response tied directly to how your body manages energy under stress. There's also strong evidence connecting cortisol to insulin resistance. When cortisol stays high for extended periods, it disrupts how your cells respond to insulin. That means your body has to release even more insulin to control blood sugar, which further pushes the body toward fat storage and away from fat burning. In simple terms, the higher the cortisol, the harder it becomes for your body to access stored fat. Fasting research adds another important layer to this. Studies comparing individuals practicing intermittent fasting have found that results vary significantly depending on stress levels and sleep quality. Participants who had lower stress markers and better sleep patterns consistently showed greater fat loss, especially from the abdominal area, even when their diets weren't significantly stricter than others. On the other hand, individuals with elevated stress hormones often experience slower progress, plateaus, or even increased fat retention despite following the same fasting protocols. That contrast is important, because it shows that fasting itself isn't the only variable. Your internal hormonal environment determines how effective it will be. Across multiple findings, the pattern is consistent. High cortisol levels are associated with increased belly fat and reduced fat oxidation. Lower cortisol levels are linked to improved metabolic flexibility, better insulin sensitivity, and more efficient fat burning. There are even studies showing that simple interventions, like improving sleep duration, reducing psychological stress, or incorporating relaxation practices, can lead to measurable reductions in abdominal fat over time without drastic changes in calorie intake. That tells you something powerful. It's not just about what you eat or even when you eat. It's about the state your body is in while you're doing it. When your body feels safe, regulated, and balanced, it becomes far more willing to release stored energy. And this is why so many people struggle despite doing everything correctly on paper. Because the missing piece isn't effort, it's physiology. Science consistently points in the same direction. If you want effective, sustainable fat loss, especially around the belly, you have to address cortisol. Step 1. Sleep optimization. Your body resets its hormonal balance while you sleep. And this is one of the most powerful ways to naturally lower cortisol. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. Try to go to bed and wake up at the same time daily, even on weekends, because consistency helps regulate your internal clock. Reduce screen exposure at least 60 minutes before bed. Blue light from phones and laptops can disrupt melatonin, which directly impacts cortisol levels. Even small improvements in sleep can significantly improve fat-burning signals. Step 2. Smart fasting. Fasting should support your body, not stress it. If you jump into long fasting windows too aggressively, especially when your cortisol is already high, it can backfire. Start with a gentle 12-14 hour fasting window and let your body adapt. As your stress levels improve and energy stabilizes, you can gradually extend your fasting window if needed. The goal is to create a metabolic environment where your body feels safe enough to burn fat, not threatened into holding on to it. Step 3, stress reduction. Lowering cortisol doesn't require extreme changes. It requires consistency. Simple practices like deep breathing for a few minutes a day can calm your nervous system and reduce stress signals. Daily walking, especially at a relaxed pace, helps regulate blood sugar and cortisol without adding additional strain. Sunlight exposure, particularly in the morning, helps reset your circadian rhythm and supports healthier cortisol patterns throughout the day. Step 4, nutrition support. Your body needs the right signals from food to stay balanced. Focus on eating balanced meals that include protein, healthy fats, and whole, unprocessed carbohydrates. Avoid extreme calorie restriction because eating too little can actually increase cortisol and slow your metabolism. When your body feels nourished, it becomes more willing to release stored fat instead of holding on to it. Step 5. Avoid common mistakes. Many people unintentionally keep their cortisol high through daily habits. Overtraining, especially intense workouts without proper recovery, can increase stress hormones. Skipping sleep, even occasionally, disrupts hormonal balance more than most people realize. Excess caffeine, particularly on an empty stomach, can spike cortisol and blood sugar, working against your fat loss goals. More fasting is not better, smarter fasting is. Week 1 to 2, in the beginning, the changes are subtle, but important. As your cortisol levels start to stabilize, your sleep often improves first. You may find it easier to fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling slightly more refreshed. Cravings, especially for sugar and processed foods, begin to decrease because your blood sugar is no longer spiking and crashing as aggressively. Energy levels may still fluctuate, but many people notice a small, steady improvement throughout the day instead of extreme highs and lows. Week 3-4, this is where things start to feel more noticeable. Bloating and water retention often begin to reduce as your body moves out of a stressed, inflamed state. Your energy becomes more stable, and you may notice you're less dependent on caffeine to get through the day. Internally, your insulin response is improving, which sets the stage for actual fat loss. Around this time, some people begin to see the first signs of weight or inch reduction, especially around the midsection. Week 4-8, now the shift becomes visible. As cortisol remains lower and insulin stabilizes, your body becomes more efficient at accessing stored fat. Belly fat, which was once stubborn, starts to gradually reduce. Clothes may fit differently, and your waistline becomes noticeably leaner. At the same time, mental clarity improves, less brain fog, better focus, and a more consistent sense of energy. This is a sign your metabolism is becoming more flexible and efficient. Month 2 to 3. By this stage, your body is operating in a much more balanced hormonal state. Fat burning becomes more consistent rather than occasional. Your waistline continues to lean out and overall body composition improves. You may also notice broader health benefits, better digestion, improved mood stability, and stronger metabolic health markers. Progress may feel slow at first, but it accelerates once your hormones begin to work with you instead of against you. Before making any changes, it's important to understand that this approach isn't one size fits all. If you have diabetes or any condition that affects blood sugar regulation, your body responds differently to fasting and dietary changes. The same applies if you're taking medications that influence glucose levels, insulin, or metabolism. In these cases, adjusting fasting windows or nutrition without proper guidance can lead to unwanted fluctuations in blood sugar. If you're dealing with chronic stress, burnout, or suspected adrenal imbalances, your system may already be under significant strain. Jumping into aggressive fasting or intense lifestyle changes can actually push cortisol higher instead of lowering it, which can slow progress or even make symptoms worse. Pregnant or breastfeeding women also have very different nutritional and hormonal needs. During these phases, the body prioritizes nourishment and stability, and restrictive approaches like fasting are generally not appropriate. This is why it's always important to consult your healthcare provider before starting fasting or making major changes to your routine, especially if you fall into any of these categories. Another common mistake is assuming that more is better. Longer fasting windows, harder workouts, stricter diets. It can feel like you're accelerating results, but in reality, extreme approaches often increase stress on the body. When that happens, cortisol rises, and the exact problem you're trying to solve becomes worse. The goal here is not to push your body harder. It's to bring it back into balance. Because when your body feels safe, supported, and regulated, it naturally becomes more efficient at burning fat and maintaining energy. This approach is about working with your biology, not forcing it. Your body is not broken. It's responding exactly the way it was designed to. Every signal you send through your sleep, your stress levels, your daily habits, shapes how your body stores or burns fat. And when those signals are out of balance, your body shifts into protection mode, even if you're doing everything right on the surface. But the moment you start changing those signals, everything begins to shift. You don't need extreme diets. You don't need to punish yourself with longer fasts or harder workouts. What your body is really asking for is balance, consistency, and the right environment to feel safe enough to let go of stored fat. And the most powerful part? Small changes, like improving your sleep, managing stress, and approaching fasting in a smarter way, can create massive compounding results over time. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency, because consistency beats intensity every single time. So if this helped you see things differently, take a moment to like this video. It helps more people discover this message. Make sure you subscribe for more science-based, practical insights that actually work with your body, not against it. And if you know someone who's been struggling, doing everything they can but still feeling stuck, share this with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. Because sometimes it's not about doing more. It's about finally understanding what's been missing, and this could be the piece that changes everything for you. But there's another hidden factor that can completely block fat burning, and this is where things get even more interesting. Because even if you lower cortisol, even if your stress is under control, your body can still refuse to burn fat. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because there's another internal signal quietly interfering with the process. It's called insulin resistance, and it changes everything. When your body becomes resistant to insulin, it struggles to manage blood sugar properly. That means insulin levels stay elevated longer than they should. And as you've already learned, when insulin is high, fat burning stays off. So even with perfect fasting, better sleep, and lower stress, your body can still stay locked in fat storage mode. That's why some people fix their cortisol, feel better, have more energy, but still don't see the fat loss they expected. There's a second layer to this, and once you understand it, everything starts to connect. There's also another powerful process involved, one that's activated during fasting and plays a key role in fat loss and cellular repair. It's called autophagy, but here's the catch. If insulin resistance is present, even autophagy doesn't work as efficiently as it should. So now you have two systems, fat burning and cellular cleanup, both being slowed down by the same hidden issue, and most people have no idea it's happening. In the next video, I'm going to break this down step by step, how insulin resistance develops, how it blocks fat loss even when you're doing everything right, and most importantly, how to reverse it in a simple, practical way. Because once you fix this layer, everything starts to accelerate. Your body becomes more responsive, more efficient, and far more willing to burn stored fat. You don't want to miss this, because this is where real transformation begins.